Hi, sorry about this morning. I'm going to try and go over some of the salient points quickly before I set off to collect my boys from school. So, foreshortening is a way to render an object or figure to show its depth. When we draw something that is foreshortened, it is an optical illusion that is created because what you are looking at looks compressed. So, for example, if you're looking at my hand at the moment, it's closer to you than my face. So it looks bigger than my face, but in actual reality, it isn't bigger. And for example, if I put my fingertips nearest to you, they look a lot bigger as well from my face, or even bigger compared to how the fingertips look in comparison to the palm. So I'm going to show you some techniques that you can use to help you with foreshortening, and we're going to look at drawing hands. Okay. Right. So first of all, you're going to get your hand into the position that you want to draw, or get your object that you want to draw, and decide how the angle that you want to draw it in. Maybe you've got a plant that you really like, and then you could have the flower closest to you and the leaves behind, so that you see the contrast in size between the flower and the leaves. This morning I did some warm-ups beforehand, ones that some of you will know who've done my other drawing classes. So first of all, we started shading the darkest tones, and that's because you need the dark tones to really bring the foreground of the image forward, and that helps with the foreshortening. We then did drawing with our left hand, or if you're right-handed, if you're left-handed, drawing with your right hand. And this is really good because it really concentrates the mind, and it makes you it really makes you connect between your brain and your hand, and forces your brain to help your left hand move, which is very hard if you're not used to it. And it makes you look harder at what you're doing, and maybe being slightly more analytical in a bit of a playful way, although this sounds like a contradiction, but I always find that because I'm laughing at myself when I'm drawing with my left hand, with my left hand because I'm right-handed, I'm able to let go a bit more and not be so uptight about making mistakes or worry about it sometimes. And sometimes that can actually create a better drawing, just because I'm that bit more relaxed and I'm having to concentrate more. Then we did a drawing where we weren't looking at the paper, I was just looking at the subject. So in this case it was my hand, and this is really good because it really makes you focus on what you're drawing, because actually what you need to do a lot of when you're drawing is looking at the object. You need to spend a lot more time looking at the object than just drawing. Okay, so when I start a drawing, I like to spend a bit of time just looking at the object, and because we're doing foreshortening particularly, it's good to look at the different angles between the shapes of the thing that I'm drawing. So, for example, already I can see a triangle here between these angles. You can also look at the height of your fingers from each other, and the distance, say, from that finger, from the middle finger to the little finger, and where does that correspond to in another part of the drawing. So that distance is about the same as that distance. So when you're drawing it on the paper, you can then measure and see, they may not be that length apart, but are those two distances the same? And then you can also look at the angles. So have you got the angles of the fingers right? Where are these fingers in relation to each other? Is it directly above? Is it slight to the right or to the left? So there's lots of things that you can be looking at. So I'm going to start with this angle, and I've got about 10 minutes, so let's see how well I can do. Right, so I'm going to start using the pencil lightly, and I'm just sketching out the fingers in relation to each other. So that's the thumb there, and already that doesn't quite look like it's the right shape. Anyway, let's just get it down, and then we can go back to it. And that finger goes in just below that knuckle next to it. That angle is not quite right, it should be more like that. I think I'm going to have to move my hand at some point. And then I've got quite a big knuckle up here. It's quite bony. Now, I'm just thinking I need to check the length. These, yep, they're the same. That's fine. Goes around there. Comes under here. I can see that this finger in here. And there's the rings. Now, looks like this thumb actually needs to be closer. That's because I need to rub that line out. There. And then there's a finger that comes out here. It's got a bit of a nail. Oh, I've done it wrong, because this should be coming not above there. It should be coming below the thumb. So either the thumb needs to be slightly bigger. That needs to come down. I'm going to rub that out. I'm going to come back to that. Now see what happened. My thumb moved and it changed. When drawing your own hands, it can be quite common that you have the problem of the moving fingers. That's not quite right. That needs to come down like that. So I'm just going to draw over the top here. I often think that drawing things at a difficult angle or using foreshortening is a bit like a puzzle, doing some kind of a puzzle, and I quite enjoy the challenge because I feel like it sharpens the brain and makes me think more, even though it's possibly harder to get a good result. I sometimes surprise myself, and maybe it's the fact that because it is harder, it makes me concentrate more on what I'm doing rather than just thinking. So I'm just adding in some darker areas to give some depth to the picture, and this is all important with bringing the bits that are nearest to you forward and making the bits of the drawing that furthest away recede, but you really need to look and see where the shadow is. Don't just assume that it is where you think it's going to be, and there will be different levels of shadow. So under here I've got a light area here that's been reflected off the paper which is underneath my hand, and it's also coming through the window which is to the right of me. And I don't know if any of you have seen the work of Henry Moore, but he did some amazing pictures of people in the underground and drawings of their hands. This was in the war. And he uses a technique where he kind of creates circles to give the three-dimensional quality. So the whole form of the finger is like a circle, and then he adds darker areas where it's darker. So it's like he's almost creating a three-dimensional tunnel or tube, and then he's building it up with more lines to create the darker areas. And that's quite an interesting technique, especially as he made three-dimensional sculpture, so it's very much about his transformation of his three-dimensional view onto the paper. It seems to suit his natural way of working. And then you've got Egon Schiele, who does these amazing etiolated pictures of figures, and the hands in those are really very expressive and interesting, well worth looking at if you get the chance. Right, now I realise that this finger is kind of in line with the little finger, but I've drawn it out here, so I must have got the perspective wrong. My fingers moved again. No mind. It's a little bit closer to me. That should be more like that. I think I'm going to rename these classes How Not to Draw rather than How to Draw. Okay, so I think the real master of drawing hands is Leonardo da Vinci. He did some incredible studies. I've just realised that I'd moved my hand again. Right. I'm afraid I think I'm going to have to leave it there, because I've got to go and pick the kids up from school. Let's see. Give it a bit more depth. But I hope this gives you some ideas about foreshortening. Maybe will inspire you to have a go yourself. The main thing is to kind of see it as a bit of fun and not to worry too much about the results. Just pretend it's your favourite kind of puzzle. I don't know if you're into Scrabble. I'm not very good at Scrabble. Scrabble or word puzzles or Sudoku or something like that, and you see it just as a kind of visual challenge as opposed to the need to create something amazing, and then you can start having some fun with it. It should be much darker. Funny finger. Okay, so there we go. do have a go, and just post any of your questions on the Facebook page, or you can write questions on my Facebook page, which is Liz Emtage Ceramics. Okay, cheers, bye.